I read the comments pretty religiously. Now, I have heard from many other YouTubers, and it's true that reading the comments under your videos is equivalent to self-cutting, but I still enjoy it. After having done the 9/11 video, I'm kind of a toughened veteran, so it doesn't bother me so much. But here recently, in this new batch of videos, there have been some really good questions that have come about. It feels like it's kind of a new day in YouTube, to be honest. So the question was that when I originally started, that most of my stamps and all my little branding was Purgatory Ironworks. Indeed, the name of the channel is still Purgatory Ironworks. But my most recent stamp and a lot of the stuff that I've been doing, I've kind of been using my own name. And the question was that this man was going to be getting his stamp very soon, and which one would you choose and why, if you had to pick one? And that kind of led to a rather important question that I wasn't expecting. And a lot of people wonder why I've kind of drifted over to my name. So, when somebody chooses a name for their forge, they choose it because they want that name to have power. Nobody ever named their forge I Suck Forge or I Pee My Pants Ironworks, because those aren't good names. They don't bring you honor. But even in my case, when I was young, because I picked my forge name very early, I did not feel that my own name had power. So after reading Dante's Inferno, the idea of purgatory, of this place where you were not good but not bad, but somewhere in between, working very hard to get out of it, at that particular point in my life, that resonated with me tremendously, and that's why I chose the name of Purgatory. And it was very strange, because coming up from a Protestant background, I was rather unfamiliar with any of the Catholic mythos. So I didn't really understand that it was part of a bigger deal. But when I said purgatory, most Protestants thought hell. And so there was this whoa type deal. So the name Purgatory Ironworks had this power that my name as a young man didn't have. And I don't think that there's anybody out there that names their forge thinks any differently. You give that forge a name that has more power than your own. Because that's what that is. But in recent years, after having been on the television shows and had a chance to, become a notable in the blacksmithing community, I will never forget, and you guys will enjoy this. I went to Blade Show for the first time about 3 years ago, and Blade Show is the large international knife show in Atlanta. I had never gone. I've never been very social in my work. And when I'm up there, I had been on Forge and Fire at that point, and that was my star. I got to be on the TV, So I get up there, and nobody knows me from Forge and Fire, because the honest truth is, very few people are remembered from a show like that. You're just a contestant passing through. Like I said, the show is the show. Contestants are just grist for the mill. It's very rare that any of us get to be remembered in any long-lasting fashion. But as I walked around at Blade Show, I had a lot of people looking at me. I said, yeah, they recognize me from Forged and Fire. Yes, I was on that show. But the ones that stopped, they didn't say, hey, didn't I see you on Forged and Fire? They say, hey, you're Purgatory. And the first time it happened, I'm like, well, that's odd, what that happens, they would come up and say, man, I watched your videos back in the day, got me started in this, and what an awesome deal. But it was very strange, because nobody knew Trent. They knew that I was Purgatory. And the entire day, there must have been 40 or 50 people that stopped me that said, hey, you're Purgatory. And it was because of YouTube and because of viewers like yourself that, suddenly what I did had power. And then as I continued the work, got to go on the Discovery Channel and things of this nature, it was very strange, because even though I had given this shop name power, that suddenly the fact that I happened to be Trent Ty, suddenly that had power. And I know it sounds odd, but I didn't realize it. I didn't realize that, oddly enough, that the person behind it was really what was fueling it. And so, as I've had to decide how I would present myself to the world, I found myself in a very strange position, because before, my name had no power, and I created this badass sounding thing because in my mind that would be my shield. You know, I'm a loser, you know, I'm a weird kid that plays video games and has issues, you know, so why would I ever put my name on anything? But here's this badass name, Purgatory, and so hopefully when people see it, they'll think better of me, because, you know, who has a name like Purgatory Ironworks and can't be a badass, right? And after Jay passed away, and after I have kind of come back into my own, I have become okay with the idea that, you know, that my own name has power these days. And so I have very tentatively stepped out. And it's very strange, because I don't think that a grown man should be, you know, worried about using his own name to present himself to the world with it. But at the same time, it's a little scary. You know, when you step out there, you know, there's no stage name, and, you know, there's no particular stage character. If you've ever watched me on Forged in Fire or Master of Arms, you know that this is me. There is no particular stage persona. But at the same time, it gets a little spooky. You no longer have that shield in front of you, because, you know, Purgatory is badass. Who the hell's Trent Ty? But I remember the one person that put that in perspective for me, believe it or not, was a wrestler named John Cena. Now, of course, you all know John Cena. If you've ever watched wrestling, John Cena, that is his actual name. And he was in an interview talking about when he first came into the wrestling society. And he says, you know, there's all these cool people. They got all these names: Sergeant Slaughter, Hulk Hogan, Randy the Macho Man Savage. He says, and they brought me in as John Cena. That's my name. He says, I didn't get a cool name like Richard Bushhammer. He said, you know, and he was lamenting the fact that he didn't have this kick-ass code name. And but now, you know, years gone through, you know, when anybody hears John Cena, you hear the music play, you know, because now his name carries power. You know, not a contrivance, not a stage name, but his name carries power. And believe it or not, it's been that anecdote that has kind of helped me be okay with the idea that maybe my name carries a little bit of power now. And for those of us that come from a rough place, it's still uncomfortable. It's still kind of, oddly enough, you feel exposed. I don't know why, you know, you're just in front of millions of people, but you do feel a little exposed. So that's why in past times I have been using my name in the stamp, because after all this time, you know, I used to be okay with somebody seeing the Purgatory stamp, and, you know, that, and again, 100, 200 years, you know, and they know Purgatory, but they don't know my name. And I kind of, these days, I kind of want them to know my name, because I feel like my name's worth something now. And that's why I use my name on the touch stamps.